Today, I sort of wanted to talk about this idea of how thinking is the evolutionary internalization of movement, and how what goes on, what the movement that goes on inside our heads, this idea how it's inseparable from the movement that we do out in the real world. So I've been reading this book called Spark, The Revolutionary New Science of Exercise and the Brain. And basically, it talks about how exercise relates to the brain. And one of the things I found really interesting, one of the lines I found really interesting in this book was that it says, one of the lines says, that which we call thinking is the evolutionary internalization of movement. And this made me pause, and it made me go like, that is actually very true. Like, the more I think about it. Because when we think, we are rehearsing the movement. And if you've ever heard about this saying, how like your body and your brain doesn't know between whether what happens to you is a thought or it's real, and all that matters is that your brain or your body is feeling it, and as long as it's feeling it, then it believes it's real, right? And this links to how our beliefs about us and about the world, our beliefs dictate how we act in the world, right? People think that in order to get rich, the money has to show up first. But it's sort of, we have it backwards in that if you want to be rich and successful, you sort of have to feel rich and successful internally. And then the externalization of what is internally felt and believed will show. But where we get it backwards is we think that the externalization, the external manifestation of what we want, i.e. money, just for simplicity's sake, we think that has to appear first, and that external appearance of the money will then change our internal dialogue and our internal beliefs we have about money, right? But it's the complete opposite, and this is what this line from the book reminded me of. And to some it might sound pretty far off, to some it'll like totally make sense. But essentially, right, the argument here is that, this is a quote from the book, patterns of thinking and movement that are automatic get stored in the basal ganglia, cerebellum, and brainstem. Primitive areas that until recently scientists thought related only to movement. Delegating fundamental knowledge and skills to these subconscious areas frees up the rest of the brain to continue adapting, a crucial arrangement. Imagine if we had to stop and think to process every thought and to remember how to perform every action. We'd collapse in a heap of exhaustion before we could pour our first cup in the morning. Now, this book is relating deliberate exercise to cognitive function and how it improves our brain. But I'm sort of taking this, and I see it as also connected to not just our cognitive function, but how we live our everyday lives, and the degree to which we live a life that we want is the degree to which we believe we can have that life, or to the degree we feel that life inside of us as already true before it externalizes. And so how my sort of stream of thought is relating to this passage is that you have to internalize the person you want to be and want to become. You have to feel that you already are that person, or you have to feel that you have that which you already want. And from that internalization of these beliefs, then it's sort of, because you've internalized these beliefs dictate all your unconscious behaviors, completely unconscious to you, that you do throughout your day, right? And it's the accumulation over time of believing your ideal into externalization. And this is, again, I keep saying this is where we have it the wrong way, because we don't believe we are the person we want to be or have the thing we want to have yet. And we're waiting for the externalization to appear in order to change our internalization, which doesn't work that way. Because if you're constantly in a state of I don't have or I am not, then how can you expect for I am to show up? How can you expect I have to suddenly show up? And how can you expect to retain it even if it does show up, if you're constantly in this state of I am not, I don't have, which is practically the same thing as self-sabotage. Because you're unconsciously resisting the very thing that you want by telling yourself that I don't have it, I am not this person, right? So it's quite paradoxical, because it's like some people hear this sort of way of thinking and they think like this is just bullshit. How can you expect to believe something before it appears in your eyes, right? Like the thing has to appear first before I can believe that it's real. But then I'm saying you have to first believe that it's real before it can show up in front of your eyes. And I would say this is, in a way, it's faith, right? In a religious sense, not in a sense of like, do you have faith in that like institutionalized religion following type of sense, but faith in this sort of individual, religiously individual sense. So this is something only you can feel and nobody else can. So it's religious in that way. Essentially, the internalization of action via your beliefs and your thoughts then leads you to externally act out unconsciously what you've internally practiced inside your head. If you made it this far, you're a legend. And as always, I'll see you next time.